Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back in AI era, Islamic Abrahamic wisdom. History does not test nations when markets are full. History tests nations when bread disappears. In the year 18 Hijri, Arabia turned gray. Crops failed. Animals died. Children cried in hunger. This was Aam-ul-Ramadah, the year of ashes. And at the center of this catastrophe stood one man, Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. The question before him was not theological, it was constitutional. Who eats first when there isn't enough for all? What Umar, radiyallahu anhu, established was not charity, it was law governing hunger. Based on the constitutional analysis of Mr. Zahir Ahmad Mir, today we uncover how scarcity was governed without tyranny and without moral collapse. This is emergency resource allocation, when justice is measured in bread, not slogan.
Zahir Ahmad Mir's book, The Foundation of Islamic Jurisprudence, specifically looking at the leadership of Hazrat Umar ibn al-Khattab. And hey, if you get some value out of this, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends. It really helps the channel a lot. So let's get into it. You know, it's often said that governing looks pretty easy when there's plenty of everything to go around. But it's during a crisis, when everything is scarce, that you really see what a state is made of. Today, we're exploring one of history's most profound tests of leadership, what it means to govern a famine.
And this brings us to a fundamental question, maybe the most fundamental question a society has to face. When the food is gone, when there isn't enough to go around, who eats first? It's the ultimate test of justice, and believe me, the answer reveals everything about a system's true priorities.
To really understand this, we have to go back in time. We're going to the year 18 in the Islamic calendar, a time that became known as the Year of Ashes. A brutal famine and a devastating drought just swept across Arabia, turning the land literally dusty and gray. For the leader of the time, Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab, this wasn't just some humanitarian crisis. This was a constitutional challenge that put the very idea of the state on the line. Now, when a crisis of this magnitude hits, history shows us that most governments, well, they tend to fall into one of three pretty disastrous patterns. These are the common traps that lead to chaos, injustice, and the total breakdown of society.
So let's break these down. The first trap is what you could call market anarchy. This is where the wealthy hoard all the essential goods and then sell them back at insane prices, profiting from misery. The second is blind rationing. Now, this one might sound fair, give everyone the exact same share, but it completely ignores the fact that a growing child's needs are way different from a healthy adult's. It's a kind of equality that's actually deeply unfair. And the third, and maybe the most common one, is elite capture. This is where the powerful, the connected, they use their influence to make sure they and their friends get the resources, leaving the most vulnerable with absolutely nothing.
What's so incredible about this moment in history is that Caliph Umar looked at all three of these conventional paths to failure, and he rejected every single one of them. He refused to let the market, or a flawed idea of equality, or the rich and powerful decide who would live and who would die. Instead, he established a brand new, truly revolutionary principle for governing a crisis, one that would completely redefine a state's responsibility to its people.
And here it is. This is that principle. In emergency scarcity, distribution follows need, not status, wealth, or proximity to power. Just let that sink in for a second. This is the core idea. It's a radical declaration that in a time of crisis, a person's life is valued based on their simple human need, not their social standing, not their bank account, not who they know.
And this wasn't just, a nice sentiment or a call for people to be established as a constitutional obligation. This simple but profound shift completely transformed crisis response. Helping the vulnerable was no longer an optional act of kindness. It was now a fundamental lawful duty of the state itself.
But of course, a principle is only as good as its implementation. So how on earth did they turn this profound idea into a real, functioning system, right in the middle of a widespread famine? Let's take a look at how they moved from principle to practice.
The very first step was to activate the full power of the government. Normal market rules were thrown out the window to stop hoarding and price gouging. Surplus food was requisitioned from wealthier provinces like Egypt and Syria, and this wasn't a request, it was a lawful order. All non-essential government spending was stopped, and every single one of those funds was redirected to famine relief. This wasn't asking for help, this was enforcing solidarity by law.
Okay, so with the resources secured, the next big challenge was distribution.
This is where that principle of need became a real actionable plan. A system of, you could call it, ethical triage was established. The very first people to get aid were the children. They were followed by the elderly, then the sick and the disabled, and then widows and the poor. Only after the most vulnerable were taken care of was food distributed to the rest of the general population. The randomness and cruelty of famine were replaced with a deliberate ethical system.
And the leadership started right at the very top. Caliph Umar imposed a strict austerity on himself. He took an oath not to taste meat or any rich food until the crisis was completely over. He ate the exact same simple meal of bread and oil that was being given to the most desperate people in the land. This established a powerful principle of moral symmetry. The ruler could not, live better than the people during a time of shared suffering.
Now, this entire operation wasn't just improvised, it was a massive administrative undertaking. They literally systematized compassion. Officers from the Central Treasury, the Beit al-Mal, were sent out to oversee distribution. They created verified ration lists to make sure the aid went to the right people, and they required continuous detailed reporting from the provinces to ensure total accountability.
This next point is so relevant for us today. In many places, an emergency is used as an excuse to curtail rights, to take away freedoms. But here, the exact opposite happened. Rights were expanded. Aid was distributed without any discrimination. Non-Muslim citizens were included on the ration lists and were cared for by the state. The goal wasn't just to manage hunger, but to preserve human dignity for every single person.
So, why does a story from the 7th century matter so much to us today? Because the principles that were established during the Year of Ashes created a legacy of justice that offers an incredibly powerful model for how states can respond to any crisis, whether it's a pandemic, an economic collapse, or climate change.
Let's be really clear about just how revolutionary this was. Before this period, a widespread famine almost always meant one of two things: total social chaos or brutal iron-fisted tyranny. What was demonstrated here was a third way, that law and a systematic state could actually govern hunger without sacrificing an ounce of humanity.
This history provides us with clear, actionable lessons for modern governance. 1. Prepare for emergencies before they happen. 2. Centralize coordination, not privilege. 3. Always prioritize the most vulnerable in all of your plans. 4. Regulate critical markets ethically. And 5, a crucial one, ensure that any emergency powers you take on are always temporary and have a clear end date.
And this really brings us to the heart of the matter. This one idea summarizes the entire philosophy. It's easy to look generous and just in times of plenty. But the true measure of a state, the real test of its justice, is revealed in how it cares for its people when there's almost nothing left to give.
And so, we end with a question for you to think about. We have incredibly complex systems today for logistics, for finance, for security, but how can we design them to do more than just manage a crisis efficiently? How can we actually institutionalize compassion to build systems that ensure that in our next crisis, it's need, not power or wealth, that determines who we save first?